Okay, welcome back to another video. This is probably my most rigorous string test that I've ever done. The way it's going to work is we're taking 4 Nordic Dots Model 100s, stringing them up with all of their current string lineup, and we're going to see which one performs the best. Nordic Dots currently have 4 strings available, and they are as follows: the top spin string, control string, eco string, and the power string. So let's get to know the racket that we're going to be using in this rigorous string test. It's the Nordic Dots Model 100. As you can probably guess, it's got a 100 square inch head size, 1619 string pattern, and it comes at an unstrung weight of 304 grams. As weights can vary across all racket brands, you also get the racket's exact specs, the weight, swing weight, and balance. This is a super helpful touch if you want to customize your frames. So let's get into the string review. First up, we've got the power string. It comes in a 128 gauge and a color that you'll find hard to miss, especially in the black glossy frame of the Model 100. I don't know if they have a name for this color, but let's just call it explosive orange. Fits the string pretty well. But anyway, it's a hexagonal shaped poly at a 128 gauge. And straight away I was getting the feeling that this string could be a 2 for the price of 1. Not only was I getting a decent amount of pop, but I was also ripping the ball. Because of the 6-sided shape of the string, it really does grip and bite the ball, giving the ball that aggressive arc. Even though this is a power string, I feel like it gives you control through power. Knowing that you're getting a lot out of your string setup allows you to stay smoother, not force things, and that was exactly the type of feeling that I was getting. As you can see, the majority of my shots are getting pretty good net clearance, but not many actually traveling long, especially when moving at speed into the corners. And I think that's also where the racket helps out massively because it is very stable. So moving and defending along the baseline, where you need that stability, the Model 100 really helps you out. Out of the 4 strings that Nordic Dots sent me to try out, the power string was definitely my favorite in terms of enjoyment. It was fun to play with. It was explosive, it gives you a lot of spin for free. And it actually got me thinking, what type of player would I be looking for this sort of setup? And I hate to be generic and say aggressive baseliner because that's literally what everyone says. But if I had to describe the player that this would suit the most, it would be somebody who likes to play aggressively from the baseline, using powerful ground strokes, using the height of the ball, getting it up above the shoulder of your opponent, troubling them with depth, pushing them back, controlling and dominating the court with heavy ground strokes. And I'd say this string would be great for players who play on clay courts, slow outdoor hard courts, surfaces where really heavy ground strokes are effective, where you can get the ball kicking up high, making use of that spin and power. So as part of this rigorous string test, I strung up all the rackets at 55 pounds, just making sure it's a fair test. But I actually think the power string would be even more effective at a lower tension. I feel like if I strung it at 52 pounds or even 50 pounds, then I'd make even more use of the string's ability to snap back, granting me a little bit more pop, a little bit of a softer feeling on my arm, but scarily even more spin. I think that's part of the skill in testing strings, is actually getting the string at the right tension, the tension that is going to allow the string to perform as it's intended to. And I just got the feeling that this string would perform better at a lower tension. Very poppy, it's very lively. So we know what it's like from the baseline. Let's give it a little bit of a run through at the net. I think it's obvious to say that the strengths of this string lie at the baseline, but that's not to say that it underperforms at the net. It still delivers a crisp, firm feeling, but I did find myself lacking in a little bit of feel. It was great for when the ball was above the height of the net, those really solid punching volleys just putting the ball away. But I did struggle a little bit when the ball was coming in fast or low, just controlling the ball. But you get this with string and rackets, it's just pros and cons. And to sacrifice a little bit of feel at the net, to gain huge power and spin at the baseline, I'd say it's worth it. Next up, we've got the Nordic Dots control string. Comes in at a slightly thinner 125 gauge, and it's a smooth poly with actually quite a grippy texture. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to like this string as much as I did. Out of all the strings that Nordic Dots sent me, this was my favorite. It just really suits the way that I play. The control string was allowing me to be very precise, hitting the ball straighter and flatter than I was with the power string, and with a lot more control. I've heard from other reviewers about this string's ability to generate spin, and while you can generate a fair amount of spin from this string, I feel like the strengths really lie in straighter, more direct ground strokes, going lower over the net, while still maintaining a really high level of control. I'd say this string definitely suits players like myself who like to play flatter, more direct on their ground strokes and who are looking for a little bit more feel instead of raw power. Maybe players that can generate their own power and are looking to rein it in, something that they can trust, knowing that they can let the ball go each time and they won't have a fear of missing long. I feel like the control string would help players who either like to play on faster courts or at a higher tempo, using their opponent's pace against them and taking time away. Because of the string's stiffer nature, it allows you to stay up the court on the baseline and play through the ball with a punchier, firmer contact while still maintaining control. And I think this is why it was so good for slicing, because it allowed me to fully commit to punching through the slice without it floating long. Due to the control string's stiffer nature and the likelihood that you're going to have to generate your own power, I'd say that this string is probably aimed at more advanced players who can fully utilize their body to create power. I'll be honest, I'm not sure what to recommend in terms of tension for the control string, because I would typically put this in at 57 pounds in my own racket. In fact, I had a spare set and I strung my own Pro Staff up with the control string since doing this review, just to see if I could get similar results. And it actually performed really well, very similar to my Lynx Tour in terms of stiffness and feel. But I know that's a pretty extreme setup for most people, especially with this string being stiffer. I'd probably recommend stringing it below 55, just so it helps you to stay a little bit more injury-free. So, in summary, the control string, my favorite out of the strings from Nordic Dots. In my opinion, perfect for the all-court player, performs equally well from all areas of the court. Okay, next up we have the Eco string, which comes in at a 125 gauge. Unlike any of the others, this string is saving the world, and more importantly, the turtles. It's made with 50% recycled plastic bottles, so just hitting with it for half an hour has made me feel slightly better about drinking all those Diet Cokes over the years. But anyway, apart from being a sustainable string, I felt like this was all about comfort and feel. It definitely didn't boast as much power as the power string. I don't really feel like I was getting huge amounts of spin from it either, but it was definitely a lot softer on my arm. So I feel like this is perfect for players who are looking for more feel and also longevity, not just for their body, but also the planet. I'll be honest, it's not the sort of string that I would use myself, as plush as it is to hit with, and it actually surprisingly played really well at the net. My volleys felt pretty crisp, quite controlled, and something that I've not spoken about in the other strings was actually the sound. There was a really nice solid pop on contact, which was pretty satisfying. Who knows, when I start my doubles career, this could be the setup. So maybe perfect for all you doubles players out there. Next up, we've got the top spin string. So it comes in at a 127 gauge, and as you can probably guess, this string is all about spin. I have been told by Nordic Dots that they are developing a top spin string soft, which I will be reviewing when it comes out, as it is still in development. But anyway, back onto the top spin string for now. This setup was way more up my alley. It provided me with so much more bite and grip on the ball than the previous strings. Hey, there was even a bit of shape on my backhand. If I was to compare this to other similar strings on the market, which had a comparable performance, I'd say that it was quite similar to something like an RPM Blast, if you're going on raw spin, bite and control. I've been told by Nordic Dots that they are bringing out a softer version of this string, which I haven't been told a huge amount about, but I imagine it will be very similar to something like an RPM Soft. On that note, Nordic Dots are also bringing out a brand new frame. I haven't been told a huge amount about it, but I know it's got a 98 square inch head, and it'll be called the Model 98.
I suspect that it'll be carrying on with the themes of the previous two models, the Model 99 and the Model 100, with that glossy pro stock kind of feel. But I feel like the Model 98 will probably be more geared towards control, maybe even directed at more advanced players. But obviously, I haven't got the Racket, so I can't say that for definite. So I can't wait to get my hands on one and do a proper in-depth review. So that will be coming soon. But anyway, back onto the string. So the top spin string giving me ample bite, a lot of revs on the ball, definitely does what it says on the tin. I'd definitely recommend this for players who like to play with a lot of spin, maybe players who like to play on slow, outdoor hard, even clay courts, who like to use the height, the shape, getting the ball to jump up as a weapon. And I also think this string goes really well in 100 square inch head sizes, rackets that would maybe benefit from having a string that gives you a little bit more bite and a little bit more control just to rein in some power. So I was a big fan of this string from the baseline. The question is, can it perform from all areas of the court? I have to say the top spin string didn't provide me with as much feel as the eco string or even the control string at the net, but it still provided me with a lot of control and precision. So obviously the strengths with this string lie from the back of the court, but it does still perform well at the net.
Okay, so first up we've got the eco string, probably my least favorite out of all the strings, because I feel like the other strings, they really gave me more in terms of power, its spin, control. They really had like a kind of definitive feeling, and what they were giving me I could kind of see straight away, whereas this was a little bit kind of in the middle of the road. And I can see exactly what they've done here. They've made this string so there is a huge benefit in terms of it's sustainable, it's environmentally friendly, also in terms of the feeling you get from it. It is a finer string, it's a lot softer, for those players that want to stay injury free or are prone to injuries, or you simply want a little bit more feel out of the racket, then this is a great string for you. If you're environmentally conscious, I think they said it's made from 50% like recycled bottles or something, so it's pretty mad. They can make it into a string. So if I had to rank them, I think this one would be at number 4, purely because I feel like it just gave me a little bit less in terms of the playability. But in terms of what they've achieved, creating a sustainable string that's softer on your arm, it's fantastic. If you're looking for that, then this is perfect. Next up, we've got the top spin string. It's a 127 gauge. Honestly, from now on in the review, these strings are way more up my alley. These are like, my bread and butter. They're kind of a little bit stiffer, bite the ball a little bit more, and they really give you something. What I actually really liked about this string was it's 5-sided, very close to my Lynx Tour. As I mentioned before, it's a 127 gauge, so it's right in between that kind of, optimal pocket for feel, the 125, and the kind of optimal gauge for durability and spin, which is 130. So it's like kind of right in between. It's got, in my opinion, like the best of both worlds. What I was getting from it was a lot of bite. So I was really launching the ball up, and I could see on the other side of the net, it was kicking up quite a bit. So the arc was a lot more aggressive. I was able to achieve a lot more spin. With the eco string, when I was trying to hit the same kind of shot, it wasn't dipping quite as quickly. I didn't feel like I was getting that bite just as much. Yeah, super solid string. This was right up my alley in terms of, what I would normally play with. And I think that, going on a cosmetic thing as well, it does look really good in the Model 100 in black. I just think, all black racket, black strings, looks fantastic. Right, should we go to number 2? It's number 2. We've just been kicked off court by a bunch of kids. We're gonna have to carry on this court. Next up, what was it, number 2? Okay, number 2, we've got the power string. So in terms of performance, the power string, in my opinion, obviously the clue's in the name, was the most powerful, was the most responsive. But something that I wasn't expecting to get out of this string was spin. I didn't actually realize that it was a 6-sided poly. So I was really surprised, like quite pleasantly, that, a lot of the shots that I thought were kind of going long were having a really aggressive dip towards the baseline. It's getting a high amount of revs. Ball was dropping very, very fast. It gave the racket a completely different feel. You know, so far we've had the Eco string, which kind of made the racket feel a little bit more kind of crisp, a little bit more poppy, you know, not as powerful. And then we had the top spin string where we were getting that really aggressive, you know, kind of dip on the ball. But then I feel like this string really made this racket come alive. It was just responsive. It was fun to play with. I actually really enjoyed this racket far more with this string in. It kind of feels like it's made for the racket in a weird way. Like it really, really suited it. In terms of like who I think this string is going to be really good for, those aggressive baseliners, people who play on like slower outdoor hard courts, you know, somebody who's maybe looking for a bit of a boomstick. You know, I feel like this combination works really, really well, but it's not on the, you know, ridiculous far end Babolat boomstick. It's kind of a, you know, a controllable boomstick, you know, one that you'd trust a little bit more in the matches maybe. So I think that players would find it really easy to trust this string, this type of setup in matches, purely because, you know, you're getting almost power and control at the same time, because if you can rely on something to be powerful, you can stay smoother. You don't have to force things as much. So that's what I found for like the general kind of tennis population. I think that this would be the most popular setup. And in terms of looks, I mean, it looks pretty bloody cool, doesn't it? I mean, the orange and the black, it really kind of has that really nice contrast to it. And I'm not a style guy, so I don't know how to describe it. It just looks cool. Anyway, let's go to my favorite string. Might actually surprise a few people, and it definitely surprised me, because going into this, I was looking at, you know, all the strings and the, you know, the kind of profiles and just feeling them a little bit and, you know, looking at what I really want from a string. And I was kind of expecting top spin string to be my favorite, if I'm honest. But it was actually the control string. I felt like I got the most amount of feel out of this, most amount of control. Obviously the clue's in the name. But one thing that really became clear to me when I was hitting, you know, with this string was I just wasn't missing. And you could say, oh, like, you know, maybe I found my groove in the practice session or something like that, but I actually hit with this second out of all the strings. So if I was going to feel good with a string, you know, and be bedded in, it would have been probably the third or fourth. So the main reason why I think this string is special is because I was really able to trust it. You know, I'm not somebody that needs to generate power or needs the racket to generate power. You know, I'm looking for more control. I'm looking for more precision. And that's what I got from this string. You know, especially when it came to the volleys, I feel like this performed the best at the net out of any of the other strings. And it was just that kind of all court playability feeling that this, you know, gave me. I feel like if I was to play a match, you know, I'd have a great time playing with a power string. But for me, I would feel like when I get into a pressure situation, you know, I can trust the ball to not fly long. And I think that's my reason for it being number one. Like, I wouldn't say that this is the best string for everyone. You know, maybe players who are like me looking for more control, but this one was my favorite in terms of performance and what I felt like it gave me. And before we go, I just want to say a big thank you for Nordic Dots for believing in me, for sending me all of this wonderful clobber. That's English for clothes, if anybody isn't familiar with that phrase. Just a quick note, probably already gone over it in the video, but the kit, how smart is the kit? I mean, I've been saying this for ages now. I remember when this kit first started coming around, I didn't have a YouTube channel. I wanted it, they sent me some, got a YouTube channel, they sent me more, and I've just been wearing it ever since. And yeah, I don't get paid by Nordic Dots, like to wear the clothing or anything like that. I don't even have a commission link, but I think it's amongst some of the best tennis kit on the market. I mean, just the kind of like really simple, kind of classy design of it. We'll put an overlay on it anyway, and you can just look at the kit, not me. I really enjoy it. Looks great, but also it performs well. I mean, you've got these like, you know, kind of stretchy, breathable shorts, and they're not like ridiculously short either. They're at a really perfect length. Just a side note, the shorts, if you've got mahoosive legs like myself, you might want to order a size up, just because these are built for probably Scandinavians who are on the slimmer side. If you've got, you know, big British tree trunks, then you probably want to just, yeah, and you got big booty. You want to probably just order a size up. Shirts and everything else fit really normally, but yeah, that might just be me. I don't know. I've got abnormally large legs. Anyway, big thank you to Nordic Dots for sending me all the kit, giving me some great content to review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Join me again next time, wherever, whenever that may be, for more racket reviews, probably my journey. We'll see. Anyway,